is Sparta!
Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And today we're talking about the 2023 Knife of the Year Button Lock Edition. That's right, it's episode 2 of a 3-part series. I've already done the budget knife of the year, and today it's time for round 2, which is button lock knife of the year. And you know, I tried to review as many of these button locks as I possibly could this year. There's absolutely no way that I could review them all. So I do have some ground rules that I want to cover before we get started. Rule number 1. This is based on 100% my opinion. I know some people like to argue this with me, but within these 4 corners, this is my world, baby. That's right. If you don't like it, there's plenty of other channels out there. This is just my avenue for my opinion. That means that my opinion can't be wrong. It can only be my opinion because that's what I got. Rule number 2. I am not going to include any knives in the running or in the picking that I did not, in fact, review. If I didn't experience it, I'm not giving it an award. There's no way I could possibly afford every single button lock that was released this year, and there's absolutely no way that I could have. I'm a working class man, and not everything that I review I get for free. So do with that as you will. If I didn't review it, it's not on the table. I'm sorry. There are knives that I did review that are not on this table, by the way, that I sold or were loaners, so on and so forth. But amongst this group right here, I do in fact believe that I have the 2023 button lock of the year. And I'm going to go ahead and narrow it down to a few pieces right now. So in front of me, I've got 3 knives. I have the CJRB button lock riff. I've got the CJRB steel Warny Pyrite, or as I like to call it, the Horny Pirate. And then I also have the Civivi Sentinel Strike. 3 knives, all 3 which are finalists in this year's 2023 button lock of the year. I'm going to narrow it down to 2 now. Goodbye, Warny Pyrite. You were a runner-up. I had to have it in there, you know, because if I don't, then the Pyrite fan club will come and TP my house. I've got it down to 2. And I'm going to talk about the immediate runner-up, the CJRB Riff. And oh my goodness, listen to me. I know that this is going to upset some people. Some people are going to be like, are you out of your damn mind? The Echo is amazing. Of course it deserved to be ranked higher than the Riff. I disagree, and I disagree because the Riff is so good ergonomically in the hand. It's one of the larger button locks that CJRB came out with. The micarta is done really well. The wider handle scales actually allow for a really comfortable grip, and we've got this deep, accentuated jimping here at the spine of the blade. Single-sided captive pivot, which I also like. Not a huge fan of the pocket clip. Not a huge fan of having the lanyard hole go through the scales with an open back design like this. They could have put a post in the back. But aside from that, the balance is sublime. The action is so good. And I didn't have any issues with this knife. The reverse flick is buttery. The action from the flipper tab is also really good. You can thumb flick it, no problem. And it's just an aggressive clip point blade that is not going to leave you feeling like you need a bigger knife. This knife is plenty big. In fact, I would venture to say that some people would say that this knife is too big. But out of the CJRB button locks that were released this year that I reviewed, and big apology to those of you who are screaming from the mountaintops that I should have reviewed a frack. This would have been my pick from CJRB. This is my favorite one that I had a chance to check out. And without having an opportunity to review the frack, at least as of yet, this would be my pick. But it's not, in fact, what I consider to be the button lock of the year. And I'm going to put this to the side. The Knife of the Year Button Lock of the Year award for 2023 goes to the Civivi Sentinel Strike. I'm going to go ahead and spell out why I love this knife so much. And if you're looking for a traditional knife review, this might not be for you. However, I've already done a traditional review on this knife, and I'll go ahead and link it right there. The Civivi Sentinel Strike is phenomenal, and it's also different than the other options on the table in some really good ways. I'm going to start off by talking about this backspacer. This is an integral backspacer design, and it is made out of FRN. And I know many people were like, oh, why didn't they just make it all aluminum? Or why didn't they do a different material? Why did it have to be FRN? Well, the FRN backspacer actually helps reduce the weight. Otherwise, this would be a full integral aluminum, and it would be a bit of a heavier knife if that had been the case. Because it's FRN, it's actually very light. This weighs about 3.5 ounces. The overall length of this knife is 8.6 inches. So it's not a small knife. And when you get up there in length, it's really easy for knives to actually become very heavy very quickly. And then people are like, I can't carry that. That weighs like as much as my wallet. But realistically, they did that to keep the weight down. And I think that it's great. Why didn't they do a more premium material? Well, if you were to take a look at the Zivius, which some people will argue is the best button lock of 2023, but I will not. The Zivius is essentially very, very similar to this, but with premium materials. Same integral style backspacer, but again, premium materials like super steel and, titanium, and it's $300. So how could this possibly beat out its more fancy brethren? Well, I'll tell you why. Button locks are prized in the community for being easy to open and close, great to fidget with, and something that's going to keep your hands out of the cutting path of the blade, because in case you needed reminding, yeah, knives are sharp, or at least they should be. And if you do dumb things with them, they can, of course, cut you. And I say that as I do dumb things with them. So yeah, some of you might not be happy with button lock knives being referred to as adult fidget spinners, but let's be realistic for a second. If you love button lock knives, chances are you also love fidgeting with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I believe that fidgeting with the knife gives you more familiarity with it. It makes it easier for you to manipulate. And so when you do go to use it, you can, of course, be more competent if you're a responsible adult. Because of the fidgety nature, I don't necessarily like super expensive button lock knives, because button locks are, in my opinion, not as reliable across the board as other styles of locks. Now, that isn't to say that frame locks can't fail or that liner locks can't fail. They 100% can. But if you've been watching the community lately, there have been a lot of incidents of button locks failing with doing this. Yeah. And I just did that, and this one didn't fail. So you know what? I'm not worried about it. And yeah, the ones that failed with taps that light. I wasn't beating on it, but yeah. So in my opinion, button locks, while technically they should be a stronger lock, they're not as reliable as of a lock as they could be. A lot of that has to do with the spring tension on the plunge itself. And yet these remain evergreen. These remain popular. These remain legendary. So no, you won't see me go out and purposefully buy a plunge lock design that costs $250, $300. If I'm buying a button lock that costs that much, I'm going to go ahead and get something like the Vosteed RS Chaos, or something like the Darkbolt Designs Arcus or Stratus, or one of those alternative button locks that is not using the plunge lock. Why would you get a button lock if you don't necessarily believe in their strength of lock? Well, this is going to be fantastic for those cutting jobs, like just slicing through some cardboard. I'm talking about your regular EDC tasks on a daily. This is going to be the Amazon Box Destroyer 5000. Look at this Wharncliffe blade. It's very thin here on the blade spine, and it has jimping thumb studs on either side, as well as a deployment hole, as well as a flipper tab, as well as a freaking glass breaker. Now, typically, I'm not a huge fan of glass breakers because I feel like they often get in the way of ergonomics. But on this one, it's very low profile, that tungsten ball, but it's still there in case you need it. It's like the bodyguard that hangs out in the background, and they do their job well, and you don't really see them until stuff hits the fan, and then it's there. And by the way, it also secures this deep carry clip design, which is very good for keeping it low profile in your pocket, but also staying out of the way. It's a stamped steel clip that's bent and stamped, so it's nothing special there. But the way that they design that with the swoop, it actually fits in and out of the pocket perfectly, and that makes it an excellent carry. This one was hard to get out of my pockets, and I love the CJRB Riff. I love this knife to pieces. I think that it's awesome. It's beefy. It feels badass, but I hate the clip. And yeah, I know they make replacement clips, but I don't want to have to buy one. It doesn't keep me from loving this knife, but it was one of those things that really pushed it over the edge for me, is the fact that they redesigned the pocket clip, and they could have just gone with one of their regular stamp variants, but they didn't. They included new integral backspacer, something that none of the other button locks that I reviewed did. It has all of the deployment options. If you're a thumb stud guy, it has it. If you're a reverse flicking guy, it has it. If you're one of the weirdos that still likes flipper tab only, and no offense if you are, but not a lot of people do, it's got that too. And then of course the button lock is non-sticky. This is one of those few button locks that I've had that has not gotten lock stick yet. And I've carried this plenty, and maybe you have one and it's got it, but this one didn't. This one is carried so well. It feels like nothing in the pocket despite its overall length. The ergos and balance are fantastic. And oh yeah, it's $87. $87. This is the knife that kept me from buying the Civivi Vision FG, because at the time I had a budget. I had to stay under $100 and I could only buy one. And while everyone was buying the Civivi Vision FG, I said, you know what? I want to see, because I saw this knife on the pre-order. I saw it. I waited for it. And this was it. And I was not disappointed by that choice. I think that ergonomically, it's excellent. You can choke up. The blade shape is going to be perfect for both utility and even some mild self-defense in case you need it for that. It has an option like a low profile glass breaker that's there in case you need it, which most people never will, but if you do, you won't regret having it. But $87 for this is actually pretty good. Civivi did a really good job. And if you are one of those people who absolutely has to have premium, then check out the Wee Ziphius. It's the same thing but premium. And I have no issue calling this the best button lock of 2023 that I have reviewed on this channel. But now it's time for you to tell me what your thoughts are. Let's have a discussion. Which button lock did I miss out on? Should I have gone more premium? Should it have been the Mordax? Or just kidding, the Mordax wasn't released this year. Or should it have been the Mini Malice? There we go, which is a knife that for a couple $100 I wasn't terribly impressed with. Let me know what your pick for the button lock of the year is down in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already watched episode 1 of Knife of the Year Awards, I'll go ahead and make sure that it's linked. If you want to watch other awesome knife and EDC content, make sure to click on one of the videos that pops up next.